Brian Downs, board member.
Price for private investment.
Lewis Brentnell, private investor.
Charles Williams, tax collector's office.
Scott Hudson, Augusta Price.
Liz Owens.
All right.
And we have one on Zoom.
Oh, and we have on Zoom, we have, we have Andre Martin, okay, and Nicole Broussard, and they're with Draco Investments. We also have, Karen Gordon, who is one of our board members, and who's the last one? Okay, no, we just, okay, all right,
Chris, just for the record, before we start, Karen is participating in the meeting today via Zoom due to health concerns, health issues where she's not able to attend in person, but she is able to appear via Zoom and vote based on the health reasons that she provided.
understand. And John is our attorney, and so if anybody's questioning that, sir. Okay, so we're gonna move ahead with the agenda. First item on the agenda is the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes from April should have been sent to all of the board members. And members, if you will take a look, if you have not had an opportunity to do so all as of yet, and make sure that the information that you see is correct. And if so, then certainly take a motion on what we should do as far as the minutes are concerned.
Motion to approve.
Second. So I have a motion made by Mr. Brian Downs and second by Scott Roundtree to accept the meeting minutes from April 3rd. All in favor, aye? Aye. We hear from Karen. We need to make sure we hear from her.
Karen, can you speak?
She's muted. Karen, are you there?
He's still muted.
This is the volume. Let's mute it.
Maybe she can take a guess. Right now.
Karen, are you there? We'll pause for a second. Please give Karen a call. Y'all bear with me just a second. Hey Karen, can you hear us? Okay. Okay. We can't hear you when we voted on the minutes, and so we need to have your vote. So if you'll, I think we got you unmuted. We had you muted there for a minute. So if you let us know whether or not, did you hear everything with the meeting minutes? Did you hear the motion? Okay. Okay, yep. Yeah, we're watching the chat as well, so if you just let us know either save or chat, whether you affirm or you're yay or nay. Okay, if you'll hit that for me real quick and then we'll move on. Thank you. And try to unmute her again.
It looks like she has to unmute herself.
Okay.
Yeah, she has to unmute herself. So she's unmuted right now, but we just can't hear her.
Hey Karen.
Chairman, can I ask the attorney if her type of response in the chat is acceptable for this item?
I got no idea.
Yes, there we go.
Just say, motion to approve.
Yeah. We'll go with it for today.
She can hear us.
There's a record of it.
Yeah, there's a record.
Make sure we
Okay.
see the chat.
Yeah.
That, item is approved. Moving on to item two. Moving on to item 2B. Approve HCD's request to sell parcel and HCD land bank inventory located at 1108 Augusta Street to Draco Investments. Ms. Beasley is representative. This is for a development of an affordable unit. Ms. Washington.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So my clients are actually on. We have Mr. Andre Martin and Ms. Nicole Broussard of Draco Investments. And they are going to speak. Oh, thank you. They're going to speak on behalf of their project. It is indeed a single-family residential home.
Okay.
And it will be an affordable unit. And they did have a presentation. I think Ms. Coughlin may also have a few words to speak on it.
Draco is currently developing within the Manawaka Bethlehem area on Lugar Street. We do have, infill lots that we're not gonna develop in with bond funds, so we are currently developing with home funds, on the parallel street, Miller Street. So we thought this project would be good for us to, transfer, for us to continue the development, complement the development that's going on with the federal funds.
So this is down near the Yak Miller area?
The Christians, Medical Center,
Yes.
is
Yes.
right in that area.
Yes. So,
If-
go ahead, Portia.
I was just gonna say, if we can't get it to work there, are you all comfortable if I call so you can hear his voice as he is?
That's fine.
Would you like me to go ahead and just give him a call?
They don't have to talk, they do it.
Okay,
We'll hear what they gotta say.
okay. Andre?
Hello, everyone. My apologies for the issues with the presentation and the sound. Let me share my screen.
Oh. We got some feedback.
If we don't vote, the phone.
There we go. I think we got you. Not just yet, because we have feedback, because you're on the call and on the computer. So it looks like they're working on some things to be able to hear you through the system. Mute your mic on the Teams.
So that we can get you his item.
You did? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
Alright,
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
let's go.
Yes.
Thank you all for your time, and again, I do apologize for the issues with the sound on my end. Thank you all for allowing us to present this presentation. Currently, Draco Investments is two individuals, myself, Andre Martin, and Nicole Broussard, who is also on the call as well. In the 1200 block, we are currently building a 4-bedroom, 2-bath continue our revitalization of the historic area, bringing in, local jobs, local contractors, decreasing the number of vacant lots. If you've driven that street lately, there's actually a couple burn downs, at the edge of Dugas. One street over, there's, recently a couple more. Just changing the entire outlook and footprint of the interior of that land and Walker area. Myself and my business partner were lucky enough to go to the groundbreaking last week at the Lennox, and we're less than a mile away from that area. And I think the revitalization that you all have going on the outside, we're willing to complement what you have going on in the interior with the single family homes.
Okay.
So just a little bit about myself and my business partner. We're a woman African American owned business. I myself am a licensed real estate agent in multiple states. We successfully built properties in Georgia, Maryland, Virginia, and in Philadelphia. We never defaulted or foreclosed on a project, and we have over a decade of development experience. Our cost to build, we're hovering right around that 160 range, and we're looking to get the cost down even more now that we have a relationship with a lot of the subs and a better relationship with a lot of our lenders. I believe that we can definitely get that number down drastically. Our funding mechanism right now, we're currently going into this one as it was our first one in the Laney Walker area, using all of our own business funds. But since then, we have reached out to several banks that are waiting on completion of this particular project, some local banks, and we should be receiving some funding to accommodate any projects that, or any lots that you have available for us to purchase, anything coming up in the near future. These are some of the funding examples that we have just personally in our own business. This does not include any outside funding that we have gathered over the last few months. We're really, really looking forward to ramping up this area. We have another few lots that we plan on trying to acquire so that we can, again, bring continuity to the area down there in that Dugas sector. How is Augusta protected? We're looking to cover all the costs of construction, guarantee completion. Projects will all be sold at an affordable price that can be agreed upon with Highway Community Development. We would not do anything without speaking to them first, making sure that we have all proper approvals from them. We have our builder's risk insurance covered by Drake Cole Investment. We're also using local vendors, local realtors, and you see Ms. Beasley is there on our behalf at the meeting. She would be our local realtor with boots on the ground. We're looking to complement what you all have going on, to come in and make a difference and bring about some change and some much needed change to that area. Thank you all for allowing me to present.
Okay, thank you. So right now, the property, and now I'm coming back to Shannon. So Shannon, this is one of the properties that's in the land bank that belongs to HCD, is that correct?
Correct.
And you have agreed to sell them the property for $3,600, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do y'all have any questions for Andre? Board members? Okay, we have a motion.
Just a couple questions for the team. Where did the assessed value versus the fair market value come for this? And then same thing to I see the lot cut and clean up. Has that been performed yet or not? And then just any comments on that being included or not included?
So that's really an HCD question. So HCD has control of their properties. We store it on behalf of them. So any cost associated with that, if they're in agreement with their sale, typically, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, Sean and Shannon. HCD normally sells that property for at least what they purchased it for. Because a lot of times these properties are purchased with federal funds. And so essentially what we have is HCD has properties that they're not necessarily going to use right now on a particular project. They may have had to acquire that property just to get the ones that they really needed. So these are excess properties that we have stored. They maintain them, they keep the insurance on those properties. And then they sell, if they are in agreement with those, they sell them. But because we have them stored, they have to come through us to do that. So, but any questions about it?
You said, so a lot of properties were donated, during the inception of this program. If we had more cost center to it, we would be made whole. I believe this was a property that was donated. We do have a procured, lawn care service that eats up a lot of my budget.
Sure.
To do the construction. So yes, the property is all maintained, but we have.
Yes, answer your question.
Good. Sounds like a quality developer, quality project. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
So the motion has been made by Mr. Ryan Downs and has been properly seconded by Mr. Scott Roundtree to sell the property located at 1108 Augusta Street to Draco Investments for the price of $3,600. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
I need to hear from Karen.
Karen, you should be able to speak now.
There she is.
You hear it?
Yeah, she's on this.
She said yes, I can hear.
Can you say it again, Karen?
Okay, I heard that. All right, the ayes have it. Going on to item 2C, approve request from Javon of Jones Company Ventures LLC to purchase land bank levy sale property located at 1712 Mill Street. Excuse me, the client will regut and rebuild using the existing structure if salvageable for a single family home. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir. 1712 Mill Street is one of our non-judicial acquisitions. Therefore, one where we've not yet borrowed right to redeem or have clear title. The location of the property is one outside of any development activity for housing and community development presently or any nonprofit that we're working with. It's right off the Steiner Avenue, close to the old Whitney Place. It's an area that needs investment and there are ample opportunities there. We've been approached about this particular property as a starting point since there's still a structure on the lot. There's been documentation supplied from the financier, which is Chase Bank for this client. They have ample funds to complete their proposed, which is an acquisition rehab. But in the event that the structure is not able to be rehabilitated, they have an additional line of credit to support demolition and new construction. So staff is recommending approval to sell the property at the full price of $12,162 to include all fees.
Questions, comments? Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made by Chris Thompson and properly seconded by Scott Roundtree to sell the property located at 1712 Mill Street to Javon Jones Company Ventures LLC for the price of $12,162. All in favor, aye. Aye. Okay, heard that second. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. It's approved. Item 2D, approve request from Shalonda Morris and Samantha Jordan for the purchase of land bank properties below, which include 1701 Meadow Street, 1706 Meadow Street, 1714 Meadow Street, and 1715 Lucky Street. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir. The expansion by the Department of Transportation of 15th Street has led to new investment in Turpin Hill. The land bank did a lot of acquisition within that corridor between S.E. McIntyre down to MLK with anticipation. But a lot of those lots would now be looked at since 15th Street is widening. Housing Authority is completing its second phase of their LIHTC project. Conversations by Board of Education with Josie and its future. So we knew that we'd be able to start selling inventory. We were approached about the acquisition of these properties for the development via new construction of rental housing. They've had conversations with planning already about their lot sizes, because these are non-conforming lots in the area based on the R3C zoning. But their ambition is to be able to do some recombination or go through the full rezoning process. We are looking at them being able to get their ingress egress done via their proposed plan of entryway from Lucky Street, onto those Middle Street lots. They've already verified that with traffic engineering. The designs make sense for the lot size, so staff is recommending the sale of 1701 Meadow, 1706 Meadow, 1714 Meadow, and 1715 Lucky Street, for the respective total prices of $3,600, $2,600, $2,600, and $4,900.
Okay, questions, comments?
And that's Shalonda right there, the one that's going to be purchasing.
No questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
I second. Motion has been made by Mr. Scott Roundtree and it's properly seconded by Mr. Chris Johnson to approve the request from Ms. Yolanda Morris and Ms. Samantha Jordan to sell the properties located at 1701, 1706, and 1714 Meadow Streets, as well as 1715 Lucky Street, for the total price of, 37,
Yeah.
37.
No, 13,700.
Moving the wrong one, y'all forget it. For the total price of $13,700. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. I can hear here.
Karen?
Karen says aye. Okay, so the ayes have it. All right, item 2E, approve request from Shavar Alexander to purchase land bank parcels listed below. That would be 106 Telfair, 108 Telfair, and 112 Telfair. Mr. Edwards.
Respectfully, sir, Mr. Alexander has asked, we had already received your agenda and it had already been posted. He's asked that this item could be moved to next month. He is in conversation with Environmental Services about 104 Telfair, the property that resulted in us getting these lots back. So he's asked to move to the June board meeting.
This item will be moved to the June board meeting. All right, item 2F, approve request from Timothy Green and Gail Kirkland Green to purchase land bank levy sale property located at 1135 12th Street. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir. Mrs. Green is desiring to reacquire family-owned property. The location no longer has the structure, but this was the home of her grandmother, maternal grandmother. Her hope and ambition is to be able to develop this parcel, which is why they are not asking to get it at any type of reduced price. But they do not have a development plan at this time. They just want to make sure they get the property back into the family's hands. Inevitably, it will be single-family housing that could be more than likely for rent, and that possibly will be to a family member. They'll carry those costs and expense. But Mrs. Green, her email to me, which is part of our record for their application, is very clear that it's just a desire to be able to get this heirs property back in the family name. So, being that they've not asked for anything by way of discount, staff is recommending sell the property back to the family for the total price of $8,200.
Questions, comments? All right, motion to approve. Motion has been made by Chris Johnson and properly seconded by Mr. Scott Roundtree to sell the land bank levy sale property at 1135 12th Avenue to Timothy and Gail Kirkland Green for the price of $8,200. All in favor, aye. Aye. Karen says aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Moving on to item 2G. Approve request from adjacent parcel owners Alexander Gardner and Elaine Garcia Gardner for assistance with foreclosure on property located at 425 DuPont Street. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir. The Garners are the adjacent property owners. They reside at 427 DuPont. We verified that they are current on their property taxes and they're requesting for the foreclosure of an adjacent property. That's our side lot program that we traditionally do. And so staff has no issue with the recommendation to board for the foreclosure of the adjacent property to the Garners and 425 DuPont for a total price of $5,500.
Questions, comments? Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made by Chris Johnson and seconded by Mr. Ryan Downs to sell the property located at 425 DuPont Street to the adjacent property owner, Alexander Green and Elaine Garcia Green, for the price of $5,500. All in favor, aye. Aye. Here it says aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 2H, approve request from Natalie Bryan to purchase the land bank parcels located at 415 First Street and 417 First Street. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir. Ms. Bryant was approved last month by the board to acquire 403 and 411 First Street in order to be able to provide parking and green space at her business, the corner of First and Green. We had no way with 1415 and 1417 only 50-foot deep lots to do anything with those. And so Ms. Bryant was approached again to see if she had interest in the 2 remaining lots. She definitely said that she wants to be able to move forward with those. She has asked for a reduced price on those, totaling $5,000 with all fees, but has agreed to take on maintenance of all 4 properties once closing on the 2 that have been approved last month, which would save the land bank $2,000. I believe that that difference in saving lot cutting fees and passing that on to the buyer was worth it based upon how much we would spend and how much she was offering for the 2 remaining. So staff is recommending to the board the sale of 415 and 417 First Street to Ms. Bryant, with the condition that Ms. Bryant will take on maintenance of those lots immediately.
What's that sale price?
$5,000 for the combination of the 2.
That'll be a contractual obligation.
Yes, sir. She can address that with Mr. Matt when she closes next week on 403 and 411.
Motion approved.
Second. Motion has been made and properly, motion has been made by Mr. Ryan Downs and properly seconded by Mr. Scott Roundtree to sell the property located at 415 and 417 First Street to Ms. Natalie Bryant for the price of $5,000. All in favor, aye. Karen says aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. One of the things, ladies and gentlemen, I'll take a quick commercial break, that we're seeing is extremely important. A lot of the properties that we acquired in the land bank were for a couple different projects. Former Mayor Marty Davis had a project that he was trying to get started over in the Turpin Hill area near Josie. Never did get off the ground, but we acquired some properties there. And now we're seeing those properties are starting to happen there. And we're glad to get them out of our inventory because, again, not only do we have the maintenance fee, but, you know, it also stops the community from beating us up for having some overgrown lots. And so certainly we see that, and we also see that happening with what we're doing on First Street. And these properties are doing what the land bank's job is to get these properties back up to the tax roll and to revenue generating state or in its highest and best use. Item 2I, approve request from Mr. Rico Williams to purchase the property located at 1617 Chestnut to develop new construction for a single-family home, 3-bedroom, 3-bath. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir. I had a chance to speak with Ms. Williams about her intentions along Chestnut. She owns a property over there that she rents. Was considering purchasing the adjacent property to that as well as 1617, and was trying to figure out if she was going to move herself out of her house to bring her sister into her existing property, do something new for herself. We concluded that based upon the lot dimensions and the size of the property that she plans to construct, and there is a copy of handwritten, hand-drawn sketch of what she's gonna build, and the income of her sister and health concerns, it made more sense for her to just do the one. In addition to that, the fact that she's trying to build a house for her sister, staff saw that she wanted to be able to do a reduced price on the lot. We've had this in our inventory for some time, and so we are comfortable recommending to the board this reduced offer price, which is a counter to the normal $4,900 that would be charged for all fees, from the client of $2,800. So staff is recommending to the board for approval the acquisition of 1617 Chestnut at the client offered total of $2,800.
And do we have all of the, you had the financials?
Yeah.
Associated.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Questions, comments, I'm sorry.
Question, you just asked, do we have all the financials?
Yes, sir.
Would you explain what that means?
Sure.
Because I'm brand new to the room.
Sure. So, when you purchase a property from the land bank, there are certain requirements. First of all, we don't allow people to purchase property just to sit on it. That's not the purpose of the land bank. We can get rid of all of our properties in a matter of a few moments if that were the case. The land bank is to get it back into a tax revenue generating state or its highest and best use with certain priorities, which also include affordable housing, affordable rentals, and dead on to private investment. Part of the requirement is one, you have to tell us what you're gonna do with it. Two, you have to show us what you plan to do with it. So that's why you see the gentleman had a plan. Three, you have to have the financial, you have to show us that you're financially capable of still of doing what you say that you're gonna do. And then, of course, there's a time associated with it. In general, we give you 18 months for the project. If you need additional time, we ask that you let us know, and then we make a decision on that as part of the project. So that's what the financials are.
Thank you.
Okay, board members, questions, comments?
I make a motion to approve.
I second the motion. Motion has been properly, has been made by Mr. Scott Roundtree and properly seconded by Mr. Chris Johnson to sell the property located at 1617 Chestnut Street to Ms. Marita Williams for the price of $2,800. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. Okay, Karen, right.
Phone died.
Yeah, I don't know if you get our computer to keep our computer.
Hey.
I'm sorry, the phone rang and I got kicked off. I'm trying to come back in.
That's okay. That's okay. I tell you what, I'm gonna keep you online here, and so we just gonna have you on speakerphone, all right?
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Did you hear the information associated with Ms. Marita Williams at the property located at 1617 Chestnut?
Yeah.
Okay. And the motion was made by Scott and seconded by me. And are you in favor or are you a nay?
I am in favor, thank you.
All right, that motion carries. Turn this down just a little bit. Okay, item 2J. Approve request from Castleberry and Harmon Real Estate LLC for the purchase of parcels located at 32 Gregg Street, 34 and a half Gregg Street, 33 Gregg Street, and 38 Gregg Street. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir. Mr. Harmon and I have had a lot of conversation about investment in the Bethlehem neighborhood. He has already privately purchased a property at the corner of Twiggs and Sherman and is currently in negotiations for a property along Red Street when he found out about what the land bank was. He spoke to a previous client of ours, Mr. Dante Davis, who purchased 11 properties along Sherman. That introduction has led to a new plan and strategy for his company for the acquisition of property and new construction for rental housing within that community. And he is currently requesting assistance with the acquisition of, as you see, 4 properties now. Also is looking at adjacent land bank parcels to be added to those, and then potentially going over to Brigham Street for the second phase. So staff is heavily recommending approval by the board to assist Mr. Harmon in this next phase of new construction in Bethlehem with the sale of 32 Greg Street, 33 Greg Street, 34 and a half Greg Street, and 38 Greg Street, all by foreclosure.
So
delinquent taxes.
So these we would have to acquire.
These are acquisitions.
And are these all at least 2 years tax?
Yes.
Great, John.
Let's just show 33 grade.
Yeah, we gotta get closer. In TCO.
Oh, so these are non-judicial?
No, these are property tax foreclosures.
Okay, but that one's already shown. We'll take a look at it.
There's one in our inventory.
One's in our inventory, okay.
Yeah, one is.
So 33 is already in the inventory.
Okay.
And then we would have to foreclose on 32, 34, 34 and a half, and 38, is that correct?
Yeah. And then it's notated in your agenda, yes, sir. So when it's at an FCL is foreclosure, so 32, 34 and a half, and 38 are foreclosure. And 33 is in the land bank.
And what's the total price?
I know
16,000.
16,500?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, questions, comments? All right, motion to approve. Second. Karen, thank you. The motion has been made by Chris Johnson and properly seconded by Ms. Karen Gordon, who threw me off there for a second, to foreclose on the properties located at 32, 34 and a half, and 38 Gregg Street, as well as sell the property in the land bank inventory, 33 Gregg Street, to Castleberry and Harmon Real Estate LLC for the purchase price of $16,500. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. Nobody else to oppose. The ayes have it. Okay. Now we will get into items for discussion. I'm going to go to B first. Mr. Manson, do you have any update on our foreclosures and donations?
Sure. Having some IT issues at the office. I was able to get this out there for around 1:30. Apologize for the delay. Nothing new on as far as donations. As far as foreclosures, Friday we have a hearing for 11 foreclosures Friday afternoon. And then we have filed a foreclosure on 829 Sidley, 130 King Mill. About to file on 2110 Broad, which is part of that project that was last month, and 29 Broad. Which is what we're trying to sell.
Questions about that? Motion to approve to accept this information. Second. Motion has been made by Chris Johnson and properly seconded by Scott Roundtree to accept the foreclosures and donations update from Mr. John Manning. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. There are none. Ayes have it. Okay, Mr. Edwards, if you will go to item C. Talk about the conference for a second.
Yes, sir. Just to not drift, I just kind of prepared something from the beginning for the sake of the board. So since accepting the position as executive director of the land bank, I believe my role to be to assist in the transformation of an agency that had traditionally only transacted the sale of underutilized properties for the development of affordable housing into an entity aiding in the overall investment of the local economy. That process began with the establishment of standard operating procedures that uniformly allow for equal participation in the acquisition of land. It grew to include grasping a thorough knowledge of the activities of sister agencies throughout the state, advocacy organizations for land banks like the Center for Community Progress, correspondence with elite land bank leaders like Mr. Chris Norman of the Metro Atlanta Land Bank, as well as Mr. Adam Zarango, formerly of the Albany County Land Bank, who now works as the Assistant Secretary to the Governor for Housing, and agencies locally whose operations affect housing development, those responsible for placemaking and amenities in downtown, as well as those who are responsible for the creation and expansion of industry and economic development. We then expanded to further include an understanding of long-term planning and vision from our local leadership at the level of the commission and mayor, state agencies, community efforts, and private property owners and business owners. That due diligence culminated with the first annual land development conference held at Prop Center in October of 2020, where over the course of 1.5 days, 192 attendees convened to discuss topics appropriately themed as underutilized assets, specifically held by churches and nonprofits for our first year. Since that initial conference, a very small group of staff, an extremely dedicated staff, and volunteers has successfully corresponded with community stakeholders annually to finance 3.5 days of presentations, panels, breakout sessions, city tours, and networking events that have garnered tens of thousands of dollars to be reinvested in hotels and local businesses. Present climate, with some critique of the conference, led me to believe that it would be most appropriate for us to go to the community directly before beginning the task of organizing a conference for this year. And as you're able to see from the posts that we have on Facebook, the Land Bank's LinkedIn, my LinkedIn page, our Instagram, all feedback has been positive. We have combinations of business owners, sponsors, attendees, community organizations, nonprofits, all saying that a conference this year is something that they want. And we wanted to ensure that before we begin the task, we address the board, because we think that it's important that the land development conference continue. But it was important for you to see that the people are asking that we continue with this effort, that they are the ones who are wanting to continue to be able to research opportunities of how to further invest in Augusta, and that if we take on the undertaking, we're also asking if the board would be supportive when we are critiqued about how we move forward with answering this call from the community.
So I want to talk just a little bit about the conference. How did we even come about the conference, and how does that accomplish the goal of the land bank? So the first thing is, it was a combination of requests from both the tax commissioner's office and from the land bank. So we had a lot of churches and nonprofits that have property, that acquire property over time, didn't really know what to do with them, don't know anything about development. We had some small investors want to know, hey, how do I get a hold of this particular piece of property? Well, this property belongs to this particular church. And so we were initially going to do something like a speed dating, where you put the actual folks who have the property, know what to do with it, with the people who know a little bit about development and know the banks and folks who are in that particular world. And so in doing so, it was like, well, why not give an opportunity to also teach them a little bit about what development is from people who do it for a living. And so that's how the Land Bank Conference, Development Conference came about. So the first year was primarily about churches, nonprofits, small investors. It was so successful that we did the second year. Second year concentrated more on the medium-sized developers, as well as our small investors. The sponsors, not only were we able to continue with the sponsors we had, but we gained sponsors. Again, very successful. Third year, we decided to, let's show people what's in Augusta, what's available. So we concentrated on South Augusta. We were able to partner with not only Augusta Tech, who hosted it for us, Economic Development Authority, one of our peer authorities. We were able to do this really nice, large tour to show them the manufacturing that we have here in Augusta, which creates the need for workforce and market rate housing. That was uber successful. How does it fit what we do? Remembering what the mission of the land bank is. Land bank's mission is to take blighted, vacant, underutilized, tax delinquent properties, get them back onto the tax roll into either a tax generating state or what is its highest and best use. And so we were able to get people, we got people who come from all over the country, including here in the CSRA, who come here, see those properties that are available, and then they are able to get with bankers, get with other developers, get with realtors, and get properties from the land bank if they so choose, and start to do that development. And so we heard, as Sean mentioned, we heard from the sponsors, we heard from local developers, like Tyson Shoefield, Auburn Realty, this is an example, and Bob Steve from Southeastern, Odetta McLeish White, who's from the Center for Community Progress. And not to mention tons of realtors and investors who all thought that this is a really, really valuable. Let me read the one from Bob real quick. Please, you have put together a tremendous event that has brought out-of-town investors that we would not have seen otherwise. It has educated local investors and given options to landowners that they were not aware of. You play a tremendous and unique role in the future development of Augusta Richmond County. So that's why we do it. That's the whole intent. And so Sean wanted to reach out to the community and say, hey, are you still interested? I saw 94 there. I don't know about all of them, but I saw 94 there. So there is still an interest this year. Sean, you want to tell them what the concentration will be for this year?
So we have already reached out to, as part of doing this community kind of scouting, to make sure that there was still a desire to see it. We also already reached out to Augusta Tech to see about the possibility of partnering again at that location. We've also started the process of reaching out to our sponsors, 2 of which have already committed. 3. Have already committed, and we are carrying over funds from last year, so we've already got a start. But when we are, assuming this is something we say we want, when we do the plan for the tour this year, we want to focus on the urban core. Last year, as the chairman said, we showed everything that South Augusta has to offer. We showed the investment from an industrial standpoint at Corporate Park, graphic packaging, the airport's growth, everything that is going on with the transition of that Tobacco Road corridor, Solvay's investment, and a lot of land where housing can be developed both at workforce and market rate levels. This year, we need to return focus back to the urban core, going west of the downtown in Harrisburg, as well as the Sand Hills up on the end, going east of downtown, looking at East Augusta and part of that riverfront area, as well as south of downtown, continuing focus on Lady Walker, Bethlehem, but also extending into Turpin Hill and South Turpin Hill. Augusta cannot grow north, and the investors that will come to our table will not look west. They will not be looking on Washington Road. They're going to look for low-cost land where they can make simple investment, primarily in housing, not high-density multifamily. We work with folks that are doing small multifamily units, quadruplex or less, or single-family detached homes for rent or for sale. A lot of those are going to be workforce level. Augusta right now still on average selling properties for under $200,000, and we have a tremendous need from every entity we talk to, the DDA, the EDA, the URA, and others. Folks got to move back to Augusta. It's great that they work here. It's great that they shop here, but our bottom line for the general fund is they have to live here. We think we are a part of helping the city to realize that. So our tour will focus on those areas surrounding downtown for residential investment as possible.
And the urban core is where the greatest collection of tax delinquent and blighted properties. Okay. Anybody have any questions, comments? Okay, board members, make a motion to move forward with the planning of the 2024 Land Development Conference. Second. Motion has been made by Chris Johnson, probably seconded by Mr. Scott Roundtree to move forward with the 2024 Land Development Conference. All in favor, aye. Karen, you there? That's it. We have all ayes, no nays. Okay. Item 2A, presentation of land bank excess property and request approval of programmatic guidelines. Ms. Jones.
So Sean and I, since like January, we went through our entire list of properties, like 300 something properties, and we categorized everything. So through doing that, we came up with the excess inventory program, and in the interest of time, we'll take questions at the end. So the problem, a lot of our inventory has sales hurdles, mostly due to zoning regulations. A lot of them are just not conforming lots. Also, some of them are in deep floodplain areas, and also there are some neighboring property concerns. So you have a blighted property that is current on taxes, so there's nothing that we as the land bank can do about that. So it's not as inviting to developers. Also, this land is costing us a lot of money in maintenance, grass cutting, especially in this time of year. So the plan is simple. We want to sell these properties at heavily reduced prices to owners with the resources and the desire to address these problems. So our strategy is a programmatic effort to liquidate excess inventory. What we mean by that is when we're coming to the board meetings and we're recommending these reduced prices, you understand why we're recommending these reduced prices. In your folder, you have a list of the properties that we have identified as excess inventory. And a few of them are highlighted, and we'll get into those examples as we move forward. We're also wanting to relax developer requirements for these properties in particular, specifically the 18-month development deadline. So when people apply for these properties, we'll kind of denote that a little bit better. But what we're saying is these properties are problem properties, so it's going to be a little more difficult to develop them in 18 months. You're going to have to go through the zoning board. You're going to have to deal with the blighted property next to it, things of that sort. Our main strategy is to pitch to the adjacent property owner or business. A lot of people don't even know that they have a land bank property next to them that they could take ownership of and expand their current property. And we'll be doing that by sending letters in the mail, which I did put one in your packet, but it's in the slides coming up, so you'll see it again. And then we also plan to just use standard sales tactics, social media, yard signs, things like that. The yard signs in particular are important because I only really want like 10 so that we can track our progress. We can hone in on 10 properties, and as they sell, we can move those signs to other properties. And examples of those are coming up as well. The benefit, this is going to cut our lot maintenance expenses, so we're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on cutting grass. I would have to ask Lisa, but I'm sure we're getting requests, if not every day, basically every day. So, yeah. And then the property will be collecting taxes again. So not only will it save us money on cutting grass and maintenance, it will make the city money because it'll be collecting taxes again. And then it will also increase awareness of the land bank. So we have a first timer in here today. A lot of people just don't know what we do, who we are, how accessible our land is. So we want to get a little more business for our office overall.
I saw YouTube last week. It's the first time I've ever heard of land bank.
So my first example is 2014 Chavis Road. So this is not a conforming lot. It should be 80 feet. It's only, I believe that's 72.32. It's the one in red right there. It is abandoned. It's overgrown and has an abandoned house on it. And it is costly to maintain. The assessed value for that property is $8,956. It is a levy sale property, so it has $6,000 in fees. So the total price per our policy is $14,956. strategy is to sell this to an interested party for the fees and $1 for the land. So that we collect everything that's needed to pay the lawyer and we sell the land for $1. Obviously, I'll keep reiterating this, but the board will get final approval. So all these properties will still have to go through a regular board meeting, regular process where the board has to approve the price, who it goes to, what's gonna be done with it, etc. The next one is 235 Walker Street. So it's that little one right in between 237 and 233. It's not conforming. These two adjacent parcels, so 233 and 237, are both current on their taxes. Looks like nobody's living in 233, but it looks like there is someone living in 237. And it appears, I don't know if you can't really see on the picture, but there's kind of like a little like brick path going through from 237 to 235. So it kind of seems like the person at 237 may be maintaining this property already. So the assessed value of this lot is $1,733. The fees are $1,400. So the total for our policy would be $3,133. Our strategy here is to send one of those letters, which you'll see coming up, to the owner of 237, informing them of the excess inventory program. And ultimately, we would suggest that we sell this property for $1 plus the fees of $1,400 for the lawyer.
If I could interject real quick, again, we're reiterating the importance of getting the property back on the tax roll. So the recommendation in the programmatic level of $1 for value in sales price is not changing the assessed value or contesting the determination of value. It is to get properties out of our inventory that Kamara has already stated are problematic properties. They're non-conforming, they're in floodplains, as she'll illustrate. There are things that are wrong with the parcel itself according to our current planning ordinance. It makes it hard for us to sell that at full price because the individual that purchased that property has a tremendous amount of pre-planning development work that they have to do, planning commission, board of zoning appeals, things of that nature. So we're recommending through this a greatly reduced price in order to be able to incentivize that.
And again, the board would get final approval. So they would still have to come before you, you would approve the sale, the price, everything like that. Next property, speaking of floodplain issues, so we have 223 and 224. The one in the red is 223, but right across the street is 224. They're identical in size. So it's zone R and H in the middle of R1C and B1 zoning. It's located in a FEMA flood zone, so you can't see it from here, but it says inundated by 100-year flood with elevations. There was a mobile home on 223, but it has since been demolished by the land bank. It's not yet reflecting in that assessed value though. So the assessed value for 223 is $10,929. For 224, right across the street, that assessed value is $8,769. Now, we're not trying to sell these as a package deal. They're just similar in the same area, so we're using them both as an example. So the strategy is to sell them at most for the land. So the land for each of those is $1,250 each. Each of them $1,250, and the fees for both $6,000. So in the way we would sell those would just be to advertise them publicly via social media. Our plan is that when we're getting these cut and clean requests, as soon as the lot is cut and clean, that's when we can take the pictures, we can put the sign out, we can make it look pretty for the public. And then obviously it would still need board approval. It would still have to come in a regular meeting, just like any other property. Then we have 1527 Bleakley Street, also not conforming. Should be 60 feet, but you see it's just under at 50. This one's an interesting one because that land in between 1527 and 1523 doesn't even have a parcel number, not something that we can acquire to expand, so we can't expand that way. And then unless the owner of 1528 is willing to sell, we also can't expand the other way. The assessed value for this property is $2,200. It's a donated property, so it has $1,400 in fees. The total per our policy is $3,600. If the owner of 1528 is not interested in selling, then we cannot expand that way. So the strategy is to pitch it to the owner of 1528 using one of those letters, and then if they're not interested, we sell it to an interested party at a heavily reduced price. Obviously, the board would still get approval at a regular meeting. And then the last one was actually a recent lawn cutting request. So we got a request, we got a quote or estimate to cut this lawn for $300. it's not conforming, it's currently zoned R1C. So the assessed value for this one is $2,200, the fees are $1,400, so the total price per our policy is $3,600. The strategy here is that the owner that owns 2 Sherman Street also owns 4 Sherman Street. So we would first reach out to him to see if he wants to own 3 lots instead of 2, and see if he wants to expand that way. And then we would sell it to him at a reduced price, that $1 plus the fees, which is $1,400. Well, we can write that down and reach out to HCD.
Different price.
Right.
$2. You go ahead and put your
What's interesting about this particular parcel is we requested this parcel as a transfer out of the inventory of the city of Augusta, working with a developer that is on Sherman Street who has yet to make his way down Sherman. So we're now carrying costs as part of a development plan. And so we are having to reevaluate some of those decisions to ensure that we're in position that once we take on a property, we don't just cut grass. We want to make sure that those strategies get down to these types of lots. So I'm glad that Ms. Carcom has stepped up and helped out a little bit.
Well, I say that because we did meet with Dante today. He's doing 2 with us, he's doing 2 more private, and that's a goal. Which is like a stepping stone. So he's getting ready to do 2 more with his own funds. And Tut that owns another property, they're doing construction, so that street is developing. It just makes sense. That's a good buy.
That's it.
That's a great buy.
Once again, board will get final approval. I'll keep reiterating that because I don't want y'all to think we're gonna go out and be like, $1 properties, $1 properties. We're gonna let them know that these properties still are not theirs until the board approves them. This is an example of the letter. I'm not gonna read it, but it is in your folders, and the gist of it is that we would reach out to the adjacent property owner, let them know what the land bank is, the address of the property that we own, and then our contact information, that's my email at the bottom, and then the office phone number, if they're interested in moving forward. This is an example of yard signs. I specifically looked for ones used by other land banks, so you can see it, land bank name, phone number, and it just makes things look more attractive, and then it also increases awareness as people are riding by these properties. They see who owns it and how they can own it. And I got a quote. Someone said that I can get these done for as low as $10 per sign, so not a bad price. So our goal is to sell excess inventory parcels monthly. So every month we want to be bringing parcels in front of the board for approval for sale. Once we see success with this program, we want to purchase a software that categorizes this inventory a little more quickly. So like I said, Sean and I were doing this from like early January to like the middle of April. So it took several months because we were going one by one on GIS, looking at the zoning, looking at the FEMA floodplain, looking at the property owners, like every single property, taking that much time. There are softwares that do this faster, but we want to see success with this first before we go out and purchase something like that. The one you see there is Ptolemy. We found out about Ptolemy at the Georgia Association of Land Bank Authorities Summit in Macon, the Galva Summit. We found out about that in December, and it does all of that within like minutes. So it would save us a lot of time and make us a lot more efficient here as a land bank. We also want to increase awareness of available land bank parcels and land ownership opportunities. Like I said, a lot of people don't know the land bank exists. We are not trying to hoard properties by any means. We want people to buy these properties. We want to get it in the hand of people that desire to develop it and desire to maintain it. And then we also ultimately want to reduce the cost of cutting these lawns, clearing these lawns, and increase the amount of properties that are collecting tax revenue. So they're not collecting taxes and they're costing us money right now. So our ask is that we, again, lighten the developer requirements and the 18-month deadline for these problem properties. Like we said, it is going to take a little bit longer to get these lots developable. And then also we have a more standard process of approving the sale of excess inventory. So we bring it before you, you know what's going on, and you have a list in front of you to reference of why we're recommending such a reduced price. So in closing, staff is requesting board approval of an excessive inventory program that will reduce developer requirements by extending development timeline, reducing pricing, and expediting sale. Understanding that board approval will be required for every application.
Phrase that way for a motion.
the land bank was established, it really was established to support the housing and development, part, their acquisition of property so that they could start doing projects like Heritage Pines and what you see now on MLK and Perry and other places in town. And we're understanding we're primarily real estate. And so we're not heavily advertised, not because we're trying to be secretive, but certainly you don't want to have people raise the price of properties that you're trying to acquire to help the city, beautify the city and develop in the city.
It's already hard enough.
That's exactly it. So we kind of suffer a little bit from what it is that we do. Then, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these properties we acquired because of potential projects that were going to happen, two major ones did not come to fruition. Again, the project that the mayor wanted to do, or the former mayor wanted to do over at Turkey Hill, as well as Choice Neighborhood. We acquired property in the Lane Walker Bethlehem area because we didn't really know exactly where it was going to go. We still don't really. But we were trying to make sure that if we did it in this area, we acquired those properties. All of that's great, and in a perfect world, when money is not a challenge, you could do exactly what the name implies. You could bank all of that land, keep it maintained, and the world is perfect until such time you get it into the hands of somebody who can utilize it for our purposes that we stated. Unfortunately, we don't have unlimited funds. As a matter of fact, some of you may know that back in the latter portion of 2023, the land bank was granted $1 million, 500,000 of it, which we have received, not received the other 500,000. Oh, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, over 300,000 of that went to maintenance.
Wow. In some form.
Okay. Wow. Whether it's trees falling in or grass cutting, and that was in the wintertime. So can you imagine what it's like now? So we've got to a point where properties that we probably would have sat on until we had a developer, we have to be more aggressive about getting those back into the hands of somebody who can take care of that maintenance, get it back on the tax roll, have some use for that property. And so I appreciate all of the work and hard work that Sean and Yamara have been doing over the past few months. But that's just to kind of give you a background of how we got here and why also we kind of flown on the radar. So, back to the motion. So I'm going to read that last statement one more time. Karen, you still with us? Okay.
Staff is requesting board approval of an excessive inventory program that will reduce developer requirements by extending development timeline, reducing pricing, and expediting sale, understanding that board approval will be required for every application.
Got a motion?
Motion approved.
A second?
I want to add, I think Ms. Jones did a great job presenting this.
Thank you.
And,
Yes.
I think also, we vote on it too, I think the math behind exactly what you're saying, those maintenance costs, carry costs of that land, and then the math of the dollars coming back in when it goes back to the tax basis is important to explain to everybody. So I think maybe at the next meeting, if we could just run through that math and then multiply it times 10 properties, 20 properties, 50 properties, it would be pretty telling as to the purpose of this program.
Okay, motion has been made by Mr. Scott Roundtree. Do I have a second? And seconded by Ms. Karen Gordon to accept the excess property process proposed by Ms. Jones. All in favor, aye. Aye. There are no nays. Ayes have it, and so that item carries. And do we have any other business, Mr. Edwards?
No, sir.
Ms. Williams? Ms. Jones? Mr. Mann?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That being the case, we thank you all for coming. This meeting is adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
I got too excited. Motion has been made and properly seconded. Motion been made by Scott Roundtree and properly seconded by Mr. Ryan House to adjourn adjourn the meeting. All in favor, aye.